Yay, we're all on. This is very fun. We've got 4 of us on, and for anyone that has come on expecting the 4 of us to include Stephanie, Chrissy, Demetra, and me, that is not the case. Poor Stephanie is home. It's very sick. She has a horrible headache. She says she does not have COVID, but she has something else. I suspect it could be influenza A since I've seen just about as much influenza A as COVID this week in the office. But anyway, she's feeling miserable. So I said a quick little prayer as to what should I do, because I really thought 4 seemed like a nice number. And I had a little voice, God answering in my head, I guess, that I should ask Laura. And so I sent a text to Laura, not wanting to pressure her, but she very quickly responded that she would be honored and was very excited to come on. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you
for coming on and filling in at the last second for Stephanie.
Yeah.
I told Stephanie that you were going to, and she was so incredibly happy and relieved because she was feeling really guilty, but she was actually she was feeling so awful that she was dictating to her daughter to text for her because even opening her eyes hurt her head so badly. So
No.
our thoughts and prayers are certainly with Stephanie that she starts to feel better quickly. But in the meantime, we have the 4 of us here. So, why don't you go around and you can just briefly tell a little bit your story super fast to just remind listeners, because all 3 of you have been on the podcast before. So if you can give a little bit of a recap, and I should have looked up which episode numbers you're on, and I will do that now that you are coming on just to explain who you are. So whoever would like to go ahead and start first.
I think I'm episode 92.
Oh, very good.
I believe it was. So I am Eleni's mom. Eleni was a beautiful, beautiful 11-year-old girl who was diagnosed at age 7 from Sick Kids Hospital. We are here in Toronto, Canada. And she was diagnosed with HHT, which is a disorder called hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia. So we were dealing with sick kids for about 4 years. And Eleni passed away October 12th, which was our Thanksgiving 2020. And she was my best buddy. She was my heart. Like I always call her my heart. My best friend. She just got me. I got her. She was on oxygen therapy for a little bit after she was diagnosed, just to help her with her oxygen levels. And she was using a purple wheelchair named Zippy that she absolutely loved and adored. So that was my baby girl. And I also have Dino, who is 16, almost 17. And I had to kick the boys out of the house today because I said, I need quiet. I can't have you running through here when we're on live. So, so that's
well, and what's cool about all 3 of you actually is because when I think of the color purple, I think of you and little Miss Eleni. When I think of the color orange, I think of Caleb 100%. So you should probably go next. And when I think of yellow, I think of Luke. So it ended up sort of being meant to be that my color gals are the ones that are here. And just so you know, you could probably think Andy was 100% green. So I'm gonna represent green in the live stream today. So why don't you go ahead, Caleb? Caleb is a mom, Chrissy.
Okay.
And talk about a little bit of orange and Caleb.
Okay. My son, Caleb, he was my firstborn child and my only son. And he was 17 when he died by suicide on August 12th, 2019. Literally out of the clear blue sky, normal day, normal Monday, made a decision that he couldn't take back. And it's been very tragic and horrible. Just relearning how to live and just living with loss. So I'm grateful for Marcy and my friendship with her, and for the podcast, and for God bringing us together. I always say that God and Google brought us together because I was so desperate for help and just someone who understood that I took to Google to find I typed in encouraging podcast after child loss, and as how she came up, and I listened, and it just took off from there. So,
and I had just started. I mean,
you
I
did.
had
You had just started.
So
Yeah.
Chrisy was my very first review on iTunes, the very first one. And I remember being so encouraged because I remember what you wrote. You wrote, I can't get out of bed until I listened to
I couldn't.
an episode. And I read that, and I remember talking to Eric, and I said, if just for that one woman, then it's worth it. And thank you. I have to say, somebody on YouTube, you wouldn't be able to see this, but just gave us a green heart, a purple heart, an orange heart, and a yellow heart, which is so sweet. So thank you for that. Okay. And so, yes. And Chrisy, so the color orange is so cool with you because it really does represent Caleb, and Caleb just absolutely loved orange. They're from Tennessee.
He loved Tennessee football.
He was a Tennessee
football is orange. Yeah.
And everything is
so
orange.
that's what
and you have had cool things happening with the color orange since Caleb died.
I have. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know. The pictures she has sent me have been really amazing. And then there have been, and I saw one night in the sky, I saw the most beautiful orange moon. I don't know if you remember that, Chrisy, but I sent you a picture, and I even called you, I think, because it was so striking to me, because all I could think about was Caleb and that color orange and how amazing it looked. So
yeah, I love that.
All right. And Chrisy, I forgot to look up and see what episodes you were on, but you were actually on twice.
Yeah, I was 19 and 49.
1949, And Laura, you don't have to look it up. And maybe you know too, but you're 102. Did you know that?
I just knew it was soon after 100. I couldn't remember exactly.
Yes, you're 102. So why don't you go ahead, Laura? So you were the most recent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the podcast.
Most recent on the podcast.
Yeah. So I have 3 sons, and Luke is my youngest son. My older 2 are on the autism spectrum, and Luke was not, which was always such a gift to me to kind of have a more typical mothering experience with him. And kind of like Demetra, he just was my buddy. He just wanted to hang out with me. He wanted to do stuff with me from the time he was a little guy. And he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer right as he was turning 15. And he had to have his leg amputated right away because the main tumor was in his calf and had really just taken over there. And he went through 2 years of chemotherapy and radiation and other treatments. And then he passed away almost exactly 2 years later on September 6th of 2017. So I think it was 3 weeks after his 17th birthday. Mm-hmm. I'm the one who's...
if people listened last week, they heard an amazing story about yellow irises. I don't know if anybody remembers the yellow iris story. That is Laura's story about her son Luke, and those yellow irises bloomed in September for Luke and have never bloomed in September since. And that one is the one that I read and I cried. I couldn't get through it because it was just so beautiful. And that's why everything color yellow always now reminds me of you and Luke.
Yeah, he loved yellow. His bedroom when he was little, and we said, what color do you want? Yellow. And he wanted bright yellow. And he wore as much yellow. If it wasn't yellow, he liked orange because that was bright. And if it wasn't yellow or orange, then red was pretty good. But he just wanted bright colors. And so it wasn't, I have a favorite color, but it was like his signature color. He just wore it all the time and was drawn to it. And it described him too, his personality. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you have listened, so Stephanie was supposed to be my original one on, like I had said, and Stephanie's daughter Kian died in 2017, but so did Luke. So we are represented by Luke dying in 2017. My son Andy died in 2018. Caleb died in 2019, and Eleni died in 2020. So what I thought would be good is for us to kind of talk about how our Christmases went in like a little post Christmas kind of discussion, and how things kind of can change a little bit over time. So I don't know if somebody wants to talk about that a little bit and how Christmas went. And then also the other thing is, anyone who wants to post any sort of questions to any of us, go ahead. Just post whatever you want. I can see them all come up wherever they come from, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. So go ahead and put in any questions that you might have as well. So anybody want to talk about Christmas? Like how it was this year, or?
So I usually jump first. I like going first and getting it kind of,
Yes.
if you guys don't mind sometimes. I was trying to remember last Christmas. So Eleni passed mid-October 12th, 2020. So I did not remember last Christmas. I've been trying to rack my brain, trying to think like, what did we do? But it was only a couple months in my grief, and I still to this day cannot remember. I don't think we did anything because I don't think I could have done anything. I do remember a little tiny tree that I picked up for my son because I asked him, do you want a little tiny tree? I said, I can't put up a big tree. I'm sorry. But I said, I can do a little tiny potted tree, and we ended up putting, my friend had given Eleni some pineapple little lights and a string of lights. So my tree had a little string of pineapple lights, which didn't really make sense for Christmas, but it was kind of like those little things, but we didn't really do anything on the day. This year, again, I asked my son if he wanted a tree again, and he said he would like a tree. So I sent him a picture. He approved of the tree, and we just decorated it with any little thing we could find, anything that, our heart wants to put on this tree. Not really decorations or anything that we've had in the past. I cannot open my Christmas boxes or bins that I have. They are, I believe, in the garage. So we couldn't do that. My parents ended up just dropping in for a lunch. We had a nice little lunch. And we went and visited Eleni like we usually do every day. We had no snow here. It was actually raining on Christmas Day, which was really funny. But I liked it because it felt like a regular day. It did not feel like Christmas. I was happy it was kind of like that, and time just passed and we went on. Some people gave me gifts from work. Some people gave us gifts. Her little buddies gave us gifts, and they were literally sitting under the tree until today. Just a few little gifts because I said I couldn't open it. I couldn't. I just didn't want to feel anything, right? So I didn't want the joy. I didn't want opening presents. My son opened a couple. He was very happy with those that he was able to open. And that was our Christmas.
So you just kind of got through, right? You just did.
Yeah, I said to myself, I'm not making any plans. We're not making any plans. My brother had wanted my son to go over to his house, which is an hour and a half north of Toronto. And I had said to him, he wanted to pick him up. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel, I was scared. I'm scared of having Dino go far away from me, especially on Christmas. But I said, you know what, I'll try and drive him up when I can. It didn't happen. And it was okay. I just had high anxiety with the COVID numbers and the cases. And I just said, I can't. I'm sorry. And he said, that's okay. I didn't really think you were going to make it anyways. But I couldn't see my little nieces and nephews, with their gifts and everything and getting all excited like Christmas Eve. And I don't think that was going to be okay for me. I don't think I'm not there yet. It's still very raw. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. So how's Christmas for you this year, Chrissy, compared to kind of how it's been?
This year, the word that I can best describe it is softer. It just felt a little Not as difficult as the last two have been. Of course, the first one, I hardly remember. My entire family that was able to came to our house, to be there. But I hardly remember it. Marcy, I've had ever since, I listened to your very first episode or first, one or two, that parent, that mom that said, someone told her your living children are worth it.
Yeah.
And so every time I feel like I can't do something for them, that voice, that saying just pops up in my head.
That was
And my
actually my
goal is,
husband that was told
okay,
that, actually. It
yeah.
was my husband.
And
He was working in the ORs, and he was working with a nurse, and the nurse, one of her sisters, had died
yes.
when she was young. And she said, she was obviously very caring to him and
Mhm.
everything. But she said, I just want you to make sure that your other kids know that they're worth it,
Right.
that you going
And so,
on, it's worth it for them.
yes.
Because I
Yes.
think
And
she
so,
had some feelings sometimes that she wasn't enough.
mhm,
Um,
yeah.
and she just wanted to kind of give that as a little bit of feedback, which
Mhm.
was really helpful. Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
And that helps me in ways of just knowing that I am enough as their mom. And
mhm.
then also that they are worth it for me to do the hard things for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that first Christmas, they wanted the tree, they wanted the decorations like they've always had. They wanted to do Saint Nick Day that we've always done because my family is of Dutch heritage. And so, they wanted to do all those things. And it was really hard. And I relied on a lot of help to do it.
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily do anything. It was other people that did it for us. Like my friend who went to Aldi and got all the little German goodies so that we could do the Saint Nick Day. So I had a lot of help. And then last year, we were in a different house. And so that was really hard because we were in a house that he never shared Christmas with us. And not really sure I can put that into words that makes sense, but that was just really hard for me last year. This year it felt a little bit softer, and I put out a little bit more decorations than I have in the last 2 years. And my daughters, who are now 16 and 9, had put on their Christmas list that they wanted to go to Dollywood. And we live in Tennessee, so my youngest daughter, she loves Dolly Parton, and she loves to sing her songs and read about her and stuff. And so I just thought to myself, I want them to have a little bit of excitement and some magic in their holiday this year.
Mhm.
Um, and so I went ahead and booked it, and I was really apprehensive because I hadn't been to a theme park without Caleb, and that just made me really sad to even think about going there without him. But again, they're worth it. They're still little and they still have a childhood to live. And so I wanted to do that for them. And we had a great time.
Oh,
We
good.
made new memories, and I rode every ride with them, and I had so much fun. Um,
Oh,
up
I'm so
until the
glad.
up until the last 5 minutes before the park closed, and I can share about that a different time, but the entire day was fun, it was laughing, it was making memories, we really enjoyed our time, and so I'm glad that we did that. And our Christmas Day was gentle, and it was pretty quiet, and we went to the cemetery as we've done in the last 2 years, and, my youngest daughter gets Caleb a gift from her little school holiday shop, and I let her open that there and give it to him there. And it was a little trophy that says number one brother. And
Oh.
yeah, uh, so it went well. It was sad. I mean, at the end of the day, I cried
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was letting myself feel it. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Laura?
So yeah, this is the fifth Christmas without Luke. It's
Mhm.
weird because past 4 years, but now everything is the 5th without
Right.
him.
I know. That's
So,
like me because I'm the 4th.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, it definitely, I think softer is a good word, lighter. It was the first time since Luke passed away, well, since he was sick, even, that I was looking forward to decorating some. And I have in the past, mostly because my middle son's autistic, and although he's 24, um, holiday traditions are very important to him. And we've had to sometimes negotiate you got to let this go at least this year, Jay. I can't handle it. Um, so, and I don't know that I've shared here before, but the first year that Luke passed away, on that first Christmas, we had some friends contact a lot of our friends and ask for ornaments that would represent Luke. And then they brought in a tree and they put it up and they put all these ornaments. It's mostly yellow, but it has things that he loved on it, like he liked Doctor Who, so we have a TARDIS on there. He could do Rubik's cubes amazingly well, so we have a few Rubik's cubes on there. So I really like putting that up, and we have tags from who everything's from, and remembering these friends, and some of them were strangers, friends of our friends who were doing it, who had never met Luke, or one of the Etsy ladies, was making a special ornament for Luke that somebody requested, and she said, "Can I make one for Luke too?" and sent it in. So, yeah, so I look forward to putting that up. I'd rather not put up the other tree, but my son insists because it's got all the ornaments from years.
Yeah.
I'd rather just stick with the Luke, what we call the Luke tree now. But yeah, so our Christmases were always pretty quiet, just the 5 of us, now just the 4 of us. And my husband's a pastor, so he's at church doing Christmas Eve services the day before. And then Christmas, yeah, it was quiet like usual, but just not as many tears, didn't feel as heavy. But at the same time, that's still there.
Mhm.
It doesn't go away.
No.
It's like I'm just used to it being there or something. So, and part of me doesn't like that. Like I don't think of him as often, and I'm still thinking about him most of the time, but I don't think about him as often, and my memories are getting fuzzier, and I don't like that. And at the same time, I know it's getting a little easier to move forward because of that too. So,
Yeah. It is kind of mixed that way, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm thinking about my Christmas this year. So going through all of my Christmases, I have said this on the podcast before, because our very first Christmas, we just took off and we went to see my family in Las Vegas. So we're on a airplane Christmas Eve, flying to Las Vegas to see my family. That was good. It was good because it was totally different, and I didn't do anything else. I didn't do any gifts. We had some people gave us gifts that I don't even know who they are, which were amazing. But I couldn't do any of that myself at all the first year. And then, gosh, it's so funny. I'm trying to think the second year. Isn't it funny how you just don't even remember sometimes? Because I'm trying to think of the second year, and I don't know. I think we've gone up north every time, just because it's less painful. So we've gone up to our cottage up north because it's just too painful to be at home and doing that normal stuff. And this year again, we went there. I know last year I decorated the house somewhat, not 100%, but for the first time I decorated the house. And then this year I actually didn't. So Eric was going to go get a tree, but he went, and the Christmas trees were like all over $100 or something crazy this year. And then we realized that we were like not going to be here at all. we were leaving like a week before. I was coming back to go to work one day, last week, Monday, and then I was driving straight back up. So we came back Sunday night. I drove back Monday. The kids stayed up the whole time. So they were up there from like the 18th all the way through the 26th. And Eric was home for a few more days than that, but it just didn't seem like it was probably worth it to go through that, especially when it was going to be kind of more painful. So I do have some Christmas decorations up north, and I even brought a couple of wreaths up north, and we have an artificial tree up north that I did put up, and it's so much less painful too, because my decorations that I have up there are ones that were given to me from my grandma when she moved to an assisted living facility. So she had a few things. They're mostly things that I had given her over the years. So she gave them back to me and she went there. But I could feel like I was being festive and I wasn't really shortchanging the kids at all on having some decorations up. But yet I didn't have to go through so much. I did ask them all on Thanksgiving, like, do you want to decorate? Because we can decorate. And no one seemed to want to get up the gumption to go down and get the decoration. So I felt like I didn't have the energy to do it. And if they didn't want it that badly, then I figured we could go without. So anyway, but we were just up north and it was just easier, right? And the one thing that has happened with the pandemic the last 2 years is obviously all of the church services can all watch online now, our same church service. So I don't have to go to a different church without him. We can just sit in front of the TV and kind of watch it when the time feels right. One big thing for me is that we make Christmas cookies. We love making Christmas cookies, and they're my grandma's recipe, and we always decorate them. And the first or second year, I went to a friend's house and she helped me bake them, and then we decorated that home. And last year I decorated, but every time I've been just a bundle of tears every time. And this year I baked Christmas cookies and I didn't cry, which was a big deal. I mean, it was a really big deal that I got to the end of baking Christmas cookies and I didn't cry at all. But I felt kind of sad that by the end of Christmas night, I wasn't crying as much, and I felt almost a little bad about it. I mean, the biggest thing is I always reuse all my bows. I always take the bows off, put them back in the bag, kids. Don't wreck the bows. We use the bows again. And I had a bow on my daughter's present, and I looked at it, and it had part of the old tag on it, and it said 2AN, and then the rest was ripped off, and it was from M that I knew it was from Mom and Dad, and that made me cry. Because, it just reminded me of this is what it used to be, I did give them as many presents as I used to. And so it was a little more normal for sure.
I enjoyed the less pressure of it this year, just because I said, everybody's got to give me grace. And even last year, I was like, nobody expected anything from me. And this year, I was just like, you know what? It's nice not to run in the stores, and it's nice not to be in panic mode. Like, I literally kind of just pretended it was like regular time, right? And I went into the store, I think it was mid-November, and I was like, what is that? Like, it seemed foreign to me. I heard Christmas music. I was just like, what is that? Like, and I was like kind of humming along to it, and I didn't realize I was doing that. But, it's nice not to have that pressure, and I also like, what last minute I had this idea of doing, I couldn't do gifts really. So I made little love packages is what I called them. And I made little tiny chairs, and I spray painted them purple, and I put shimmer on them. I can show you because we're live, but it's like a little tiny chair.
Oh, that's so cute.
I don't know how many I did, but my plan was to give them as little ornaments. I would put a little hook and have them put them on their tree. So every year they think of Eleni. And I put a little angel on the tip of it, a little silver angel there. But, I didn't end up doing the little making it an ornament. I just gave them as is in a purple little tissue paper, little baggie, and everybody loved them. It's kind of like the little empty chair, right? That
Yeah.
I did that with sick kids for an art therapy group. And one of the moms had said she had bought these little tiny chairs from IKEA, and, you know, she decorated them. And I was like, great idea. Like, maybe that'll keep my mind busy. So I think for me, it was just keeping myself busy and my mind not thinking about what I'm missing, and all the memories. And like, I'm one of these people that just needs to keep busy. And another thing that I did, I was going to do it for Halloween because Eleni loved Halloween, but I had asked the Sick Kids coordinator, the donations coordinator, if I could get them and donate some Halloween costumes, because it was Eleni's favorite time, and she was gifted some Halloween costumes back then. And the lady had responded back saying, we have lots of Halloween costumes. She's like, what if I give you a wish list of what these kids would like? Like, would you be open to that? And I said, oh my God, give me the list. So I was on a mission buying these gifts from fundraising stuff that we've done, with Eleni's little kindness project that we have going. And I asked friends on Facebook, you know, does anybody want to help me with this list? And everybody helped. And we got like ukuleles, we got like kinetic sand, we got Play-Doh, we got so many things, toys, stuffies, everything for all these kids. And they were things that they really wanted. So that helped me. Like, I was busy with that for quite about a month and a bit. So that really, really helped. And it's nice to kind of give back and feel okay about the holidays, right? Like that was something good we could do, right? And not just be sad all the time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's important to try to find something, you know, not only to keep you busy, but something that you can feel good about in a time that is otherwise just so hard and difficult.
it's not a good time if you're stuck in a hospital, right? With your family and your child who,
No.
you know, and they really try hard to send these kids home. They don't want them there at Christmas. They want to send them home, but some of the kids can't go home. So yeah, if we can make it any easier on them, that's just a positive thing, I think.
I have certainly spent Christmases in the hospital working too, so, and being with those kids. And we did. You always try to make it the most special you can, but it's still hard. It's still hard. That's for sure.
I thought of a couple of things since everyone was talking that I thought would be helpful if I shared.
Yeah.
But we also have a separate tree. It's an angel tree, and it's a real tree. It has to be real just because I want it to be real. And it just has more meaning to me if it's real.
Yeah.
And so we picked out a real tree. It was maybe like 2 feet tall, 2.5 feet. And then I've asked people to, you know, if they come across an angel ornament or they want to make one, then they can send that to me or bring it by. And I'll also, you know, look for some myself and put them on there. And so that grew this year by several ornaments. I received them in the mail from people I don't even know. Like you said, friends of friends, you know, who are following my journey and wanted to make an angel ornament. So send it to me. And that's just so thoughtful. And it just keeps him relevant. And I have it, you know, right in my dining room window. And so the lights were on it all the time, and everyone could see the little angel tree right in the front of my house. And so that meant a lot to me to have that. And then also something that's been helpful that I didn't share is that every year, so now this is the third Christmas, my sister, you know, everybody wants, what can I do? Tell me what I can do, you know, let me do something. How can I help? And so the first year I told her, you do the stocking stuffers for the girls, because that was just something I knew that I would not be able to do. You know, going from store to store to store, looking for little trinkets and things and just ideas on what to fill the stocking with. I knew that I was not going to be able to do that. So I asked her, and she has done that still. She did that last Christmas and she did it this Christmas. So she comes with her suitcase, you know, full of stuff, and she fills up the girls' stockings with their stocking stuffers. And that is just so incredibly helpful. If you're going through this and you're like, you know, that was just really hard, or something that you didn't do this year, maybe think about that, you know, next year, pawn that off on someone to do the stocking stuffers for you. So that's very helpful to me.
Well, and I think another thing that we have talked about in the support group that I was in, and that a couple of these ladies are in with me, is that just because you do something one year does
Yes.
not mean that you need to do anything close to it the next year.
Yeah.
And just to not feel any pressure
Yeah.
one way or another. It's just because I've always done it doesn't mean you have to do it this year. But if you
Yeah.
don't do it this year, it doesn't mean you can't do it again next year. You can go
Yeah.
back. You can go
Mhm.
back and make it the same or make it absolutely different. And
Yeah.
that is all okay. And I think
Yeah.
really important to
Mhm.
give yourself that permission to
Yes.
go wherever you need to go.
See, that reality hit me really hard this year. I kind of, last year I was like, okay, starting with Thanksgiving, we're going to do these new things. It's going to go this way. Okay, we have a plan for next year. We're just going to do the
Uh-huh.
same things and it's going to work fine. No. So Thanksgiving time came around this year, and what I did last year was not going to work. It was just, I couldn't make a plan. I didn't want to do what I did last year. And I was so frustrated because I was like, I
Mhm.
had a plan. I
Yeah.
had a plan. I started it last year. It was going to be our new yearly thing, but I just could not do it. So talking with a few friends of mine and just, laying it out how I was feeling, they helped me brainstorm and we came up with a different idea um, and it worked. And I got through it, but I was so frustrated that it wasn't going to be the same thing. So that was actually really hard because I was like, okay, I can't really depend on that. And I
Right.
really need to be flexible that just because it worked one year, it's not going to work every year. And I needed to really be okay with that.
Mhm.
So,
I
Mhm.
think the plan should be not to have a plan. Just
for me,
go with
sometimes
it.
I need a plan. Though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think to be flexible with the plan is the most important thing, really, because
Mhm.
I'm kind of probably a mixture of the both of you in that I am a planner and I like to have a plan.
Mhm.
But if the plan's not working, I think it's just important to just know that I can abandon the plan,
Yeah.
and just try something totally different and have that be
Yeah.
okay.
Because I know people, like I have a few friends. I have a friend who lost her daughter, and she just tried to do the same thing she did every year. And she did it last year as well. And she's in her grief the same amount of time I am. And she honestly hated every moment of it.
Yeah.
And it was so hard for her. And I said to her this year, I said, please just do what you can do. Do not go with a plan. Do not do what you do every year. And she just felt she had to do it for her son. Her son is my son's age. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? It would be okay if you can't go through it. Like, you just need to give yourself grace and be gentle with yourself and just do what you can. And try not to feel guilty if you can't go through with what your plan was.
So,
Yeah, that's important. I think too, I said last year I decorated my house. I did a lot more. This year I didn't.
mhm.
And I was for a while a little bit disappointed in myself. I felt like
Mhm.
I should do more. Right? This Christmas should look more like the ones before and not less. Because
Mhm.
last year I was like on the road back and now I didn't. And I mean, I kind of gave myself an excuse that, well, we're not going to be in town and we're not whatever. But in all honesty, I just emotionally was hurting more this year during that time, especially than I had been before. And who knows why that is? I think you just have times that you're going through that are better and times that are going through that are worse. I shared on the podcast last week that, I had like a sort of an emotional breakdown evening one night. And I was trying to figure out, honestly, I was sitting in my car trying to figure out who to call, thinking about calling you, Chrissy, actually, because I was
Yeah.
just completely panicked and doing terribly. And then Demetra, just out of the blue, I tell you, God was whispering to you or something because you just sent the message at the perfect time and texted me at the perfect time to kind of calm me down and bring me back. But emotionally, I just am worse off. I don't know if it's our current COVID outbreaks or what it has been. I mean, it's been really hard at work seeing, COVID is different now because we are seeing so many more sick children than we ever have with previous variants. And so it's much more real to me than it. I mean, not that it hasn't been real, because it has been in my
Yeah.
whole career, everything has changed. But I'm now seeing kids sick with this, and it's hard emotionally to be
And I
doing
think
this and dealing with.
everybody's tired. Like, it's
Yeah,
been
everybody's
almost
tired.
2 years. Like, we're tired of this, right? Like, and I don't think it's funny, but when somebody says like they're sick of COVID, I'm like, well, think about having lost your child on top of that.
Yeah,
Like, I think what people don't get is, like, we're going through COVID too. And, COVID hit March 2020, and, I still had Eleni at the time. And because her issues were respiratory issues and she was on oxygen, and I was like petrified if she ever were to catch COVID. I was so, so scared, because I don't think she would have made it through with that. But we're just tired.
yeah,
As a society, I think we're all just tired. I was talking to a friend who works for Children's Aid Society, and she said so much mental health, so much abuse. Like, it's just a lot going on in
it's a
society,
lot.
and
It's
we're
a lot.
tired.
And I honestly think in some ways other people are so wrapped up in how anxious and sad and all that stuff that they're going through, that when we're grieving like we are, we're a little more forgotten than we might have been otherwise. I mean, I don't know, but it feels like that sometimes. It feels like they kind of forget that you have this whole other really huge thing that is, for me, tons bigger than COVID going on in my life, which is my grief and my missing Andy. So
Yeah.
but I think people forget a little.
And you're also like, it's a true thing. Like, after a year, I was so scared. Like, with work, I'm like, oh my God, it's been over a year now. And they're going to be like, oh, she has to be okay now. She has to be normal. She has to be herself, and it's all that faking along with it, which is just, and then you feel guilty because you're being happy and they see you cheerful. And then you go home and you're just exhausted because it's emotionally exhausting and physically exhausting.
Yeah, when you have to try to fake through.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. The merry time, right? Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Everybody's jolly and happy, and we're like,
It was Christmas Eve, I think, and I felt like, I remember thinking, it's exhausting doing this, going to church service, which I really didn't want to go to, not for any particular reason, and it was fine, but just being around people and trying to have the smile, but the weight is there. And so then that's exhausting. And my husband, he doesn't say it, but he'll come home and he sighs, and he also just wants to shut down, and which is fine, but I can see he's feeling exhausted by it too.
Well, and he's in a different role too, because he's supposed to be shepherding other people, right? And caring for other people. And when you are emotionally drained and going through all of this on your own, it's hard. It's hard to have stuff left for other people. And he is expected to have that be limitless, his ability to give to other people, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he's funny because he'll say, oh, there's this family, and either they lost someone or their child's sick, and he's like, I'm sure you don't want to go talk to them. And I'm like, no, I'd really like to go talk to them. It feels like least I can do is listen and be there, because that was what was so important. But it's harder for him. Yeah. For his personality, it's harder for him, but he does it because that's his job, and he's glad he did when he's done.
Oh, sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I do want to point out here, Erin, quite a while ago now, did send a little story about her first Christmas now without her daughter, Emmy. She said she asked close friends and family to pick out an ornament that reminded them of Emmy. just similar to what you were did with the angel tree and what you've been kind of talking about. So as people came over, they hung their ornament on a small tree they got, and they called it their Emmy tree. And I feel like
Mhm.
we were including her. But Christmas as a whole was miserable, she said. I was so sad and the air was so heavy.
Mhm.
But then she talked about what you said, Chrissy, that she did most of the normal Christmas stuff so that the other kids felt like they were worth it for me to do it for them. And
Mhm.
I would say too, that little bit of a warning, like with your friend Demetra, is that sometimes though you need to ask your kids.
Mhm.
You really need to have that honest conversation with your kids. What do you need for Christmas?
Yep.
What do you need to do? What would you like to do? And what would you rather not do? Because, in our family, those first couple years, nobody wanted a tree. It was only
Mhm.
last year that Peter wanted the tree. And so that's why we got the tree, because Peter really wanted a tree last year. And then this year he felt fine that we were going to have a tree up north, which I think was reasonable because they were there really
Mhm.
for a full week. So um, I think that's important to have that honest conversation, because you may think that everybody needs something and
Mhm.
it may turn out that they just don't.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
I did have that conversation with my daughters that first year. More so with the older one.
Yeah.
Because the youngest one, she was 7 at the time.
Yeah.
And so my older daughter, and there were things that we haven't done
Yeah.
since Caleb died. And there are things that we do, but they look a lot different. And so that was an important conversation that she and I had. And I told her I can't do it all. So you have to pick and choose what means the most and what can we do away with. Um, and this year on Christmas Eve, I could tell that she was feeling. I took a picture. I always take a jammy picture on Christmas Eve in front of the tree, and so I did that this year too, and I could tell that she was feeling pretty sad. And so when she went to bed and I went in there and I talked to her and I said, I just want you to know that I know that this is hard for you too.
Yeah.
And I know that she was thinking about Christmas morning, waking up and not walking out to see the tree without her brother. And I just needed her to know that I can see that too. Because sometimes I'm so consumed with myself and my own grief that I don't see theirs. And so I went in there and I just needed her to know that I knew, and that I knew that it was going to be hard for her to walk out Christmas morning without him. And she
Yeah.
cried and she said thank you, that I acknowledged that for her.
Yeah. And I think that was important for you to do, because I don't think she would have
She wouldn't
done that.
she
She wouldn't
wouldn't
have mentioned it because she wouldn't have wanted to hurt you.
And exactly. She would not have said a word, but because I noticed and I went in and I talked to her about it, I could see the weight come off of her. She was
Mhm.
like, okay, okay. Like mommy saw, mommy knows, and
Yeah.
she understands. And then that,
And that you didn't completely break
right.
when you told her or when
I
you talked about that. I think
right.
that's important too for her to have seen that
Yes.
you can have that conversation, because I
Mhm.
think her fear is mom's going to break down. She's going to start crying. She won't even be able to talk. It'll
And I
be,
usually do. And my eyes did get teary,
yeah.
but I did go through with it, and it meant a lot to her. So
That was good.
I think we're all going to have heavy days and lighter days, and it doesn't matter if it's just Christmas or the seasons changing or it's close to their anniversary dates. Like, we have our heavy and our lighter days. I went downstairs to my son. He's downstairs in the man cave. That's where he lives now, in the basement, and
Mhm.
he has a shelving unit that he created after Eleni had passed away, and it's accumulating things of Eleni's, which is super awesome. Like, she had painted him a gold ukulele and wrote "Best Big Brother in the World" when she was in the hospital. It was like an art therapy project of hers. He has that on his shelving unit. I saw he has her camera up there. He has her sunglasses. He has a little pack of Nerds that she used to love chewing on. Little purple bubble gum. pictures of him and her together, you know. And the other day, I think it was like last week, I saw his collection had grown, and I saw he had one of her little ID bracelets from the hospital. And I went, oh my God, where did he get that from? Like, I hold on to them. I think he probably found it in a drawer somewhere, you know, and he added that to his collection. So he's hurting, and I know he's hurting, but he's 16 and he doesn't want to show it to me because he wants to be strong and he wants to be okay for me so that I take care of myself. You know, but I think it's great to acknowledge when they're feeling, you know, sad,
Yeah.
or it's a heavier day, or it's a harder day. Like me just seeing that of his, it broke my heart because I knew he's adding to it, which means the pain is still like it's there. Like he loved her so much. So, you know, and he has his little moments of, you know, remember when we did this, and remember when me and Eleni did that, and they're just the cutest little stories. But he doesn't want to do therapy. He doesn't want to do anything sharing his feelings with anybody. He just wants, that's his way of representing, like showing how he feels, right?
Well, I
And
think
it's
it's
hard,
beautiful that he's doing that.
it's so hard when we're grieving to take care of our children as well, right? Because it's hard enough taking care of yourself,
Yes.
you know, and trying to function. Like, I have not cooked food for the family. I haven't had the energy to. And like, I've had my friends cook me meals and cook Dino meals. And, you know, one day I had some energy. It was a lighter day. And I actually cooked dinner that night. And Dino came home from his work and he smelt, you know, food in the house. And he was like, oh my God, what do we have for dinner? Like, what smells good? And I said, oh, I cooked some dinner for you, hun. And he's like, you didn't. He's like, no, Baba did that, right? Like, he thought his father had made the dinner, right? And I'm like, no, I made it. He's like, he was eating his pork chop and he's like, no, you didn't make this. It wasn't you that made it, because I haven't been able to, you know? But it's those little things, right? That are kind of, it's nice when it's a lighter day and you can do something that you haven't been able to do in such a long time.
Yeah. That is helpful. Yeah, thinking to anniversary dates, just to announce this is the 27-year anniversary of the death of my mom, actually.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually right about this time, actually, as well. So this is always a kind of a harder day, has always been a harder day, and no one usually remembers, which is always hard too. But it is nice. I got a message this morning, a message on Facebook from my mom's best friend that she had growing up. And she said, I just wanted to know that I'm thinking of you today, and I'm thinking of your mom and my best friend. So
Aw.
it was just so beautiful. I wrote back to her. I said, it's so nice to know that someone else is thinking of her,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking of her,
Right.
but I didn't know that anybody else was, and it's just nice.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. She's reached out to me really since Andy died, because she lost one of her children many, many years ago. And so when Andy died, I think she felt so drawn to me because she knew I didn't have my mom to turn to.
Right.
Right. So anyway, always kind of a beautiful thing.
It is.
So I was wondering if I could bring up New Year's.
Yes, I had wanted to bring up New Year's, and I know now we're getting towards the end, but I really did want to bring up New Year's. Yeah.
That first year and Christmas, it's kind of a blur, was definitely so hard that first year, that whole, season. And what surprised me or ambushed me was, as we were approaching New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, that was what really affected me the most. I did not want time to move on. I didn't want to leave 2017, the last year my son was alive. I didn't want to start a new year that he wasn't going to be there. And I didn't see that coming at all. I kind of expected Christmas would be hard, but so I don't know.
100% agree with you. I was exactly the same way.
Me too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
New Year's Eve was way more difficult to me
It
for me
was.
than Christmas
Yeah.
because we sat there, Eric and I laid in bed together as 2018 was coming to an end, both of us crying,
Yeah.
just knowing that in minutes it would be
Yeah.
a year he would never see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
hard. That I remember that as well. And it was so hard.
Yeah, I was blown away by it because it was completely unexpected out of the blue for
Mhm.
me. Mhm.
I did plan for that day as well. Like, and I told you, I think a couple weeks ago, I went on a hike and watched the sunrise.
Mhm.
Because I needed to see the sunrise come up. I just needed to know that God, I can't really put it into words, but it was something that I needed to do on the first day of a year that he would never see, that I would never share with him.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, and I know you thought that you would make that a yearly tradition too.
I did.
And
I
then
thought,
last year it
like,
rained or something, didn't it?
last year it was raining buckets. And I had a plan for where I was going to go and what time I was going to leave. And nope, that didn't happen. I was so frustrated.
So do you have the plan for this year?
No, I don't
No.
yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, all right,
might
you're being
go to
flexible. You're being
yeah, I
flexible.
might go to the place where I thought I was gonna go last year,
Mm.
but we'll see. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
I know time does a funny thing too. Like it just seems, she passed in 2020 and I feel it was just like, how are we going into 2022 already, right? Like and like when you're
Mhm.
grieving, just I had ordered my son some school pictures as I do every year. And I every year I order for her as well because even though it's like an old picture, it's from September 2019, her picture from school, because she never went September 2020. But I had ordered some little mugs with her picture on it and it wrote, Eleni on it, and then September 2020. And I woke up one night in the middle of the night and I said, wait a second, that wasn't September 2020. It was September 2019. Like
Right.
time, like how did I make that mistake? So now on these cups that write September 2020, and I kind of gave some as some gifts to my, people who loved her a lot. And I said, oh, by the way, it's September 2019, that picture, because that was her grade 5 picture. And I said, she never made it to the grade 6, picture day, right? We were in the hospital at that time. But I was just like, it feels like your mind's playing a silly trick of like the years passing and it just doesn't seem right that it was so long ago. It just seems like yesterday sometimes,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
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 It's a very, I don't know, funny, I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah. In fact, I'll just say one more thing. We've got to kind of wrap things up. And I just interviewed a woman today, and so this won't air for another month. But she had a woman come up to her, and she had lost her son. And she said, "When did your son die?" And she said, 1968, yesterday, an hour ago. And I
Oh,
thought, that was a beautiful way of putting it, right?
yeah.
It was a long time ago, but in some ways, it feels like it was just yesterday,
Yep.
or maybe just even an hour ago.
It does.
So, uh, anyway, that's the way to somehow think about time, is that time changes things, but the pain can still be there, and you still sometimes it feels like it's just right there, that it just happened yesterday.
And something little can trigger it, right? Like at school, at work one day, the music teacher came in and she played the Nutcracker Ballet for our kids. And I just looked at my friend and I said, I can't be here right now. I had to run away because I had taken Eleni in September 2018 to the Nutcracker Ballet. And it was the best time ever. And I couldn't go back in and I had to go to a different classroom, my old classroom. And they were like, how come you're here? And I said, I just can't be in my class right now. Like just the song playing in the
Mhm.
background,
It just ends up being too much.
it was
Mhm.
too much. It can bring you back in a second, right? Like those, either the smells or the something you see or anything can bring you back just in a second, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I just recently switched where I'm gonna get my mammogram because I think I've only gone once since Luke passed away, but it was the same building as the doctor who found the tumor. And it also happened to be the same time of year. And I was trying so hard not to cry. And I teared up, but I didn't burst into tears like I wanted to. And this year when they sent me the reminder, I thought, I can't do that again. And I was talking to my doctor and I was like, maybe I need to even go to a different building. And he's like, yeah, you can get it done somewhere else.
Totally.
But yeah, I didn't. And it was one of those surprises too. You know, once I pulled into the parking lot, I thought, oh no, I remember being here. You know?
Right. We can't relive that day.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. I have really enjoyed talking to you, and I am so glad to have spent this little time with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.